So I'm back again for another video. So for today's videos, we will tackle the different types of skills, and we will answer the question that we have. And once again, I'm BMG Payam from BPE 21, and the number one question is, what is a rating scale? And enumerate the various types of rating scales and explain how these rating scales are formulated. And my answer is, a rating scale is a set of categories designed to elicit information about a quantitative attribute in social science, and it's a tool used for assessing the performance of tasks, skill levels, procedures, processes, qualities, quantities, or end products. And we have four various types of rating scales, which are semantic differential scale, Thurston scale, Likert scale, and the last one is Goodman scale. The number 2 question is, what is the difference between a Thurston scale and a Likert scale, and in way does Goodman scale improve in both type of scale? Thurston scale. Louis Leon Thurston scale is considered the father of attitude measurement, and he addresses the issue of how favorable an individual is with regard to a given issue. Example of this is, put a check mark on the block if you agree with the item. While Likert scale, in 1932, Francis Likert developed the method of summative ratings, which is still widely used. The Likert scale requires that individuals which take on a box to report whether they strongly agree, or undecided. In response to a large number of items, considering an attitude, object, or items to include. And lastly, the Goodman scale. In 1944, Louis Goodman suggested that attitude should be measured by multidimensional scales, and as opposed to undimensional scales such as developed by Thurston and Likert. And Goodman pointed out that there should be a multi-dimensional view of the attitude construct. The major characteristic of this scale is that the response to one item helps predict the responses to the other items. For instance, if the individual responds negatively to the item, example of Goodman scaling is, please answer yes or no to the following questions. So like that. Question is, what is semantic differential scale? Illustrate the use of a semantic differential scale in the measurement of attitude. The scientific differential scale tries to assess an individual's reaction to specific words, ideas, or concepts in items of ratings on bipolar scales defined with constructing objectives at each end. And the scales actually measures two things, which are directionality and intensity. Directionality of a reaction, example, good versus bad, and the other one is intensity, example naman is slight to extreme. Visually, a person is presented with some concept of interest without any other explanatory remarks. Example, math teacher and asked to rate on a number of such scales, and ratings are combined in various ways to describe and analyze the person's feelings. The last question is, what is portfolio assessment? What are the key of portfolio? So, a portfolio is a form of assessment that students do together with their teachers. The teachers guide the students in the planning, execution, and of the contents of the portfolio, and together they formulate the overall objectives for constructing the portfolio. As such, students and teachers interact in every step of the process in developing a portfolio. And the key of elements of portfolio, number 1 is cover letter, 2 is table of contents, 3 the entries, and the 4 dates, 5 drafts of oral and oral written products, and revised versions, and the last one is reflections. And that's all. Thank you for listening. God bless us all.
Hello, my name is John Reyna Jacinto, and I will be answering 3 questions that I have prepared and answered in this paper so I can read it to you properly. So let's begin. What is an attitude? Defined as mental predisposition to act that is expressed by evaluating a particular entity with some degree of favor or disfavor. Individuals generally have attitudes that focus on objects, people, or institutions. Why is the study of attitude important? Why study attitudes? Obviously, attitudes can influence the way we act, think in the social communities we belong. They can function as frameworks and references for forming conclusions and interpreting or acting for against an individual or individuals, a concept or an idea. For instance, think about your attitudes toward drinking alcoholic beverages or gambling, or going on all-night bar shopping spree every night, or perhaps think about your attitude towards mathematics and mathematical equations. Do these attitudes shape the way you think and correspondingly act? What is your response? How is your response informed by each of these attitudes? Several studies in the past, for instance, conclude that poor performance in school mathematics cannot be strictly attributable to differential mental abilities but to the students' attitudes toward the subject. When mathematics classes are recited, students with negative attitude towards mathematics tend to pay less attention and occupy their minds with something else. Thus, attitudes may influence behavior. People will behave in ways consistent with their attitudes. How will understanding of attitudes and predisposition enhance teaching? It will enhance teaching in the way that the learner can be taught well because the teacher understands that this student has an attitude. He or she will adjust to properly educate the learner. But then again, not all teachers can adjust to a student because teacher is only a human. They also have a limit and they can get trained as well. But then again, with the help of motivation and passion for teaching, it can be done. Why are the needs as presented by Maslow's arranged in hierarchy? It is ranked one above the other. Since needs are many, they are arranged in order of importance, from basic to complex. What do you mean by hierarchy of needs? Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of human needs theory shows needs of a human/person ranking one above the other since needs are many. The hierarchy of needs theory of Maslow's allows us to better understand the needs of a human or person. Describe the potential of tapping the affective domain in enhancing the learning of students. It is important to realize that by tapping the potentials of the affective domain in enhancing learning, we increase the likelihood of real and authentic learning among our students. Similarly, students may experience affective roadblocks to learning that can neither be recognized nor solved when using a purely cognitive approach. What is self-report? Self-report is the most common measurement tool in the affective domain. It essentially requires an individual to provide an account of his attitude or feelings toward a concept or idea or people. What should such a self-report essentially contain? It contains the student's point of view, attitude, feelings towards a concept or idea in a topic. How should a teacher instruct the students in writing self-reports? In using this measurement tool, the teacher requires the student to write their thoughts on a subject matter like why I like or dislike mathematics. The teacher ensures that the students write something which would demonstrate the various levels of taxonomy, lowest level of receiving up to characterization. So that's all. Thank you for listening and peace out.
My name is Martion P. Pabusan from Physical Education 2-1. So my first question, what are the purpose of portfolio assessment? Discuss the merits of portfolio assessment in traditional testing. So I have 10 purpose of portfolio assessment. First, portfolio assessment matches assessment to teaching. The final outputs to be assessed the products of classroom discussion and classroom work and are not simply or simple diversion of the tedium of classroom activities. Second, portfolio assessment has clear goals. In fact, they are decided on at the beginning of instruction and are clear to teacher and student, unlike in cognitive testing. The objectives are set at the beginning, but the actual items may not reflect achievement of such objective. In portfolio assessment, however, the student control the items to be included and therefore are assured that the goals are achieved. So, number 3, portfolio assessment gives a profile of learning abilities in terms to depth. Breadth and growth in terms of depth. Portfolio assessment enables the student to demonstrate quality work done without pressure and constraint of time present. Traditional testing through the help of resources such as reference materials and help of the other student. Number 4. Portfolio assessment is a tool for assessing a variety of skill not normally testable in a single setting for traditional testing. The portfolio can show written, oral, and graphic outputs of student in a variety of ways which demonstrate skill development by the student. Number 5. Portfolio assessment develops awareness of own learning by the student. Students have to reflect on their own progress and the quality of their work in relation to known goals. Number 6. Portfolio assessment caters to individuals in heterogeneous class. Such flexibility is attributed to the fact that portfolio assessment is open-minded so that the students can demonstrate their abilities on their own level and caters to differential learning style and expression of carrying strength. Number 7. Portfolio assessment develops independent and active learners. Students must select and justify portfolio choices, monitor progress, and set learning goals. Number 9. Portfolio assessment can improve motivation for learning task achievements. When students are empowered to improve their own achievement and work, they become highly motivated to pursue the learning tasks. Number 10. Portfolio assessment provides opportunity for student-teacher dialogue. It enables the teacher to get to know every student. Moreover, portfolio assessment promotes joint goal setting and negotiation of grade, which can never happen in traditional testing. So, second question. The K-12 education program in the Philippines. So, what is the perfection of K-12 program in the Philippines? Every Filipino child now has access to early childhood education through universal kindergarten at 5 years old. Children start schooling and are given the means to slow adjust to formal education. Research showed that children who underwent kindergarten have better completion rates than those who did not. Children who complete standard-based kindergarten program are better prepared for primary education. So, education for children in the early years laid the foundation for lifelong learning. And for the total development for a child, the early years of a human being from 0 to 6 years are the most critical period when the brain grows to at least 60 to 70% of the adult size. Example, activities, song, poems, stories, and illustration are based in local culture history in reality. This make the lesson relevant to the learners and easy to understand. Students acquire in-depth knowledge, skill, values, and attitudes through continuously and consistency across all levels and subjects. Discussion on issues such as disaster risk reduction or DRR, climate change adaptation, and information and communication technology, or it's called ICT, are included in the enhanced curriculum. So, building for proficiency through language such like mother tongue or based on multi-language education. Enumerate the various type of portfolio assessment. So I have four types of various of portfolio assessment. First, working portfolio, also called as growth or development or documentation portfolio. A project in the works demonstrate an individual development and growth over time. Second, showcase portfolio, also called as display or best work portfolio. Display of the student best work demonstrate the highest level of achievement attained by the student. And the third one, assessment or evaluation. Documents what a student learned based on the standard and competencies expected of the student at each grade level. Demonstrate the mastery of the standard and competencies. And the last one, process portfolio. Demonstrate all the phases of the learning process, useful in documenting student overall learning process. Last question. How does portfolio assessment differ from traditional testing and from the authentic assessment method? So, traditional assessment refers to conventional methods of testing, usually standardized and use pen and paper with multiple choice, true or false, or matching type test item. Authentic assessment refers to assessment wherein students are asked to perform real-world tasks that demonstrate meaningful application of what they have learned. So, traditional assessment. What is the purpose of traditional assessment? To evaluate if the student have learned the content, to determine whether or not the student are successful in acquiring knowledge, to ascribe a grade from them to rank, and compare the against standard of other learners. So, what's the purpose of authentic assessment? To measure student proficiency by asking them to perform real-life tasks, to provide student many avenues to learn and demonstrate best what they have learned, to guide instruction, to provide feedback and help student manage their own learning, to also evaluate student competency. So that's all. Thanks for watching and God bless you all.
My topic is educational evaluation. State and discuss the basic principles in educational assessment and evaluation. These are the basic principles in education assessment and evaluation. Systematic inquiry. Evaluators conduct systematic database inquiries about whatever is being evaluated. Inquiry cannot be used and based on pure hearsay or perception, but must be based on concrete evidence and data to support the inquiry process. Competence. Evaluators provide competent performance to stakeholders. The evaluator must be people or person of known competence and generally acknowledged in the educational field. Integrity, honesty. Evaluators ensure the honesty and integrity of the entire evaluation process. As such, the integrity of authorities who conduct the evaluation process must be beyond reproach. Respect for others or for people. Evaluators respect the security, dignity, and self-worth of the respondents, program participants, clients, and other stakeholders with whom they interact. They cannot act as if they know everything, but must listen patiently to the accounts of those whom they are evaluating. Responsibilities for general and public welfare. Evaluators articulate and take into account the diversity of interests and values that may be related to the general and public welfare. My next topic is consider STAPBeam CIPP evaluation model. What are essential components of context, input, process, and product? What is CIPP model? The CIPP model is an attempt to make evaluation directly relevant to the needs of decision makers during the phases and activities of a program. STAPBeam's context, input, process, and product or CIPP evaluation model is recommended as a framework to systematically guide the concept, design, implementation, and assessment of service learning project and provide feedback and judgment of the project effectiveness for continuous improvement. This is the four aspect of CIPP evaluation. Number 1, what should we do? This involves collecting and analyzing needs assessment data to determine goals, priorities, and objectives. For example, a context evaluation of a literacy program might involve an analysis of the existing objectives of the literacy program, literacy achievements, test scores, staff concern generally, and particular literacy policies, and plans and community concern, perception, or attitude and needs. Number 2, how should we do it? This involves the step and resources needed to meet the new goals and objectives and might include identifying successfully external program and materials as well as gathering information. And number 3 is, are we doing it as planned? This provides decision makers with information about how well the program is being implemented by continuously monitoring the program. Decision makers learn such things as how well it is following the plan and guidelines, conflict arising, staff support, and moral strength and weaknesses, and materials delivery and budgeting problems. And number 4 is, did the program work? By measuring the actual outcomes and comparing them to the anticipated outcomes, decision makers are better able to decide if the program should be continued, modified, or dropped altogether. This is the essence of product evaluation. So let's proceed to context evaluation, input evaluation, process evaluation, and product evaluation. These are evaluation has a two-part. Letter A, evaluation of planning connected to strategic planning. And letter B, evaluation of implementation connected to tactical planning. So let's proceed to number 1. The context evaluation provides information for the development of and evaluation of mission, vision, values, goals, and objectives, and priorities. This is the purpose of context evaluation. Number 1, define the characteristics of the environment. Number 2, determine general goals and specific objectives. Number 3, identify and diagnose the problems, barriers, which might inhibit achieving the goals and objectives. Letter B, tasks. Number 1, define the environment, both actual and desired. Number 2, define unmet needs and unused opportunities. Number 3, diagnose problems or barriers. Letter C, methods. Number 1, conceptual analysis to define limits of population to be served. Number 2, empirical studies to define unmet needs and unused opportunities. Number 3, judgment of experts and clients on barriers and problems. Number 4, judgment of expert and clients on desired goals and objectives. So, number 2, input evaluation. Provides information for the development of program design through evaluation of databases, internal and external stakeholders' interests, weaknesses, strengths, threats, and opportunities. This is the purpose of input evaluation. Number 1, design a program intervention to meet the objectives. Number 2, determine the resources needed to deliver the program. Number 3, determine whether staff and available resources are adequate to implement the program. Letter B, tasks. Number 1, develop a plan for a program through examination of various intervention strategies. So, letter A is examine strategies for achieving the plan. Time requirements, funding and physical requirements, acceptability to client groups, potential to meet objectives, potential barriers. Letter B, examine capabilities and resources of staff. Expertise to do various strategies, funding and physical resources, potential barriers. Number 2, develop a program implementation plan which considers time, resources, and barriers to overcome. This is the second part of the evaluation of implementation connected to tactical planning. Process evaluation. Develop ongoing evaluation of the implementation of major strategies through various tactical programs to accept, refine, or correct the program design, evaluation, or recruitment, orientation, transition, and retention of the first year students. This is the purpose of process evaluation. Number 1, provide decision makers with information necessary to determine if the program needs to be accepted, amended, or terminated. Letter B, tasks. Number 1, identify discrepancies between actual implementation and intended design. Number 2, identify effects in the design or implementation plan. Letter C, methods. Number 1, a staff member serves as the evaluator. Number 2, this person monitors and keeps data on setting condition programs elements as they actually occurred. Number 3, this person gives feedback on the discrepancies and defects to the decision makers. So the last part of the evaluation is the product evaluation. Evaluation of the outcome of the program to decide to accept, amend, or terminate the program using criteria directly related to the goals and objectives. Put desired student outcomes into question form and survey, pre and post, look back to the original objectives in the context evaluation to see if how this would be changed or modified based on the data. So this is the purpose of product evaluation. Designed to accept, amend, or terminate the program. Letter B, tasks. Develop the assessment of the program. Letter C, methods, traditional research methods, multiple measure and objectives, and other methods. So, let's proceed to the last question on my topic. So, state and discuss the different evaluation approaches. Evaluation approaches, Staffel-Beam and Webster 1980 place approaches into 3 groups, according to their orientation toward to the role of values and ethical consideration. The political orientation promotes a positive or negative view of an object, regardless or what its value actual might be. They call this pseudo-evaluation. The question orientation includes approaches that might or might not provide answer specifically related to the value of an object. They call this quasi-evaluation. The values orientation includes approaches primarily intended to determine the value of some object. They call this true evaluation. So, let's proceed to pseudo-evaluation. These approaches are not acceptable evaluation practice all through the season. Reader can surely think of a few examples where they have been used. So, letter A, politically controlled. Information obtained through politically controlled studies is released or withheld to meet the special interests of the holder. Letter B, public relation. Information is used to paint a positive image of an object regardless of the actual situation. So, let's proceed to number 2. Objectivist elite quasi-evaluation. As a group, these 5 approaches represent a highly respected collection of disciplined inquiry approaches. They are considered quasi-evaluation approaches because particular studies legitimately can focus only on question of knowledge without addressing any question of value. So let's proceed to letter A. Experimental research is the best approach for determining causal relationship between variables. Letter B. Management Information System or MIS can give detailed information about dynamic operation of complex programs. Letter C. Testing programs are familiar to anyone who has attained school, served in the military, or worked for a large company. Letter D. Objective-based approaches relate outcomes to pre-specified objective, allowing judgment to be made about their level of attainment. Letter E. Content analysis is a quasi-evaluation approach because content analysis judgment needs not to be based on value statements. So, let's proceed to the last. Subjectivist mass true evaluation. Letter A. Adversary approach focuses on drawing out the pros and cons of controversial issue through quasi-legal proceedings. This helps ensure a balanced presentation of different perspectives on the issues, but it is also likely to discourage later cooperation and heighten animosities between contesting parties if winners and losers emerge. Letter B. Client-centered studies address specific concerns and issue of practitioners and other clients of the study in a particular settings. These studies help people understand the activities and values involved from a variety of perspectives. However, this responsive approach can lead to low external credibility and a favorable bias toward those who participated in the study.